Alright, so I've got quite a few questions about the paint job on the Explorer. Tips, advice, stuff like that before people go into painting. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of go over how I did it here. Basically, I had the whole truck painted green as the base, which I believe this is how they did it for the movie. If you look at some of the like making of and behind the scenes footage, they're actually some of the Explorers that they used for the interior shots. Some of them aren't even painted all the way. Like, they're just green or green and yellow. Some have the stripes in certain spots, like maybe the doors have the stripes but not the hood, and weird stuff like that. The one thing they all have in common is that they're all green as the base. So that's one reason why I went for the green base. Also, I mean, it's just, if you were to do it the other way around, if you were to do the red base, you either have to blot out, the rough areas where the stripes are going to fall, and hope you get it covered, or paint the entire thing red, and then, mask off the area for the stripes. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, you could definitely blot out the red, just kind of hope that you got everything covered. But then I would think there would be some thickness, inconsistencies and stuff like that. I've seen, I believe, Emerson's Explorer, his, I believe, had a base of red already. So he just put the, I guess what you call it, the positives, I guess, it would be called. So he put basically the positive stripes on and painted the green. But his truck was already red, so it kind of worked out. But, my truck was blue, so I have to do a whole new paint job anyways, so. But yeah, it is a little bit harder to apply like that because, this solid piece like this is very thick and it's easy to lay down. When you're doing the negative, you basically have, just a perimeter tracing of it. And it's a little hard to actually place down. So what I did is, after my paint guy shot the green and the yellow, so basically the truck was green and yellow with no stripes, I came in and I placed the stripes. I placed the positives first, to get them to a point where I liked it, and then I went back and took the negatives and placed them, pretty much followed the the line of the positive, because when you peel them off like that, when it's the negative, it's very floppy. Imagine imagine just a very thin sheet, and you're trying to place it right. But having the positive stuck down first, just as a guide, helped a lot. Traditionally, if these were just normal decals, you'd use a transfer paper or something like that. You put it, you put the transfer paper down, stick it down, and peel it off. But the stencil vinyl that I used is, meant to be removable and repositionable, and it's, it's forgiving. Not to mention, as a brand new paint job, I was a little wary, about putting some seriously adhesive vinyl down on this new paint job that's not even clear coated yet. So yeah, I mean, it was a little extra work as far as applying the stencils, but I think it made for a better paint job. Yeah, I mean, it really came out pretty good, I think. Obviously, the hood logo is a decal, as are the side logos. I took my like a sample, printed hood logo into the shop when I laid the stripes, to get the idea of the placement, because, I knew where this was stuck and I knew the size of it, so basically I used that to place the stripes. Yeah, the stripes they're all machine cut. I actually cut these years ago, in preparation for getting it painted, but I just didn't get it painted until last year or so, maybe. But yeah, I would definitely, cut your stencils ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be doing the design and the placement at the same time. I know people do it, but yeah, when I actually placed mine, it was really hot, and it was in the guy's paint booth. I got it painted at a local shop here, and it was really hot in there, and I wouldn't want to be there longer than I had to. Plus I wasn't on my own turf. I was on someone else's in someone else's shop, applying these things. So it really helped getting them cut ahead of time. Even if you're not going to do it by a machine, like a plotter or something like that, definitely I would recommend cutting them ahead of time. Even if you're going to do it by hand, get some big sheets of vinyl and cut them by hand. I definitely wouldn't want to have been in the shop, placing all these and getting it right. Also, you do it ahead of time too. You can get, these are exactly mirrored, which is how they are in the film. I'm sure for the movie they had a machine cut too, because they had to make like a ton of them. So, but yeah, the stripe design is exactly mirrored of the other side. So cutting them ahead of time gives you that advantage, and you're not like a time crunch. The other thing I would recommend is if you have a 93 or newer, this rocker panel area down here is gonna have a bunch of holes in it. There's this like plastic side skirt on the 93 and newers that you have to remove, and there's gonna be a ton of holes down the whole thing, and even the fender is gonna have a hole here. Obviously the fender is replaceable. You could find a 92 fender, fenders if you had to. But as far as the rest of the rocker, you're it's part of the truck, so you're gonna have to fill that. That's just another thing to kind of worry about. If you can, find a 92 or a 91. It's believed to be 92s that were used in the movie. Granted, we haven't confirmed that with the VIN yet. The VIN on a normal truck is right there, and you can see it. For the movie, the custom dashboard that they put in the trucks actually covered that VIN. So at the Islands of Adventure one, we're unable to get the VIN from it, unless maybe under some stroke of luck the VIN in the door is still intact, which I don't count on that too much, just because I'm sure they've probably repainted the door jambs at some point, and they've most likely painted over that. But maybe one day we'll get in there and we'll see if that's the case. But yeah, they're believed to be 92s. We did confirm from the VIN of the Jeep that they are, well, at least the Jeeps were 92s, which falls in line with production and all that, stuff like that. So so definitely try to find a 92. That's going to save you a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of body work with the holes in the bottom. 91s have a different interior color. I believe it's like sandalwood tan or something like that. It's like a little bit darker tan interior. The 92 and above actually got mocha interior, which is what Ford calls it. So just be aware of that. If you get 91 and 92 interior pieces, they're going to be different colored. So just keep that in mind if you are also swapping the interior out. But yeah, that's about it. I think that's actually one more thing too to note, which saved me a little bit of cost at the paint shop, was I had them paint the whole truck green basically, but any parts that were yellow or solid red, I basically took in separately. So rather than leaving the bumper on the truck, and potentially just masking it off, which is kind of, it's not exactly good. Or having them paint it green and then go back and painting over yellow, I actually took off all the parts, this molding here, everything. The rear molding, the rear bumper, basically anything that was going to remain yellow or red, like the topper, this was removed and painted separately from the truck. Basically anything that was one color I removed and had painted separately. Yeah, also another thing I would suggest too is removing all of the any trim pieces you have, like this. There's all this molding around every single window, which is riveted. So if you peel this back a little bit, there's a bunch of rivets underneath here. Yeah, you know, I made sure to remove all this stuff because, you know, if a paint job is gonna fail, the first places it's gonna fail are gonna be places like this, where if I were not to paint underneath here and just mask it, that leaves a very, you know, easy place for, you know, chipping and failure to happen. So, you've actually seen some old pictures of the Allen's Adventure Explorer when the paint started to fail. It was actually, you know, around the windows and you know, around the windshield, stuff like that. Basically, where I'm sure for the movie they didn't do much prep on these things at all. They probably just masked it off and literally just sprayed, you know, which is okay if you want the paint job to last, you know, a few months for production, but, you know, I'd like this to last a long time. Yeah, I think there's some shots where you can see there's overspray on the brake drum and stuff like that on the rear, where they didn't even probably take the tires off the truck to paint them. Yeah, I know there's a shot in one of the behind the scenes pictures of the Jeep, the spare tire on the back. There's a bunch of red overspray where they didn't even remove the spare tire on the Jeep to spray the red. So yeah, you know, they take a lot of shortcuts in the movie stuff, but, you know, as long as it's not seen on film, you know, and it only has to last for a few months, that's okay. But, you know, if you want something that's gonna last, you know, you gotta do it right. But yeah, I hope that was informative and hope that helps people with their paint jobs.